There comes a moment in every chosen person's life when the truth is no longer something they chase, it's something they collide with. That moment is now. If you're listening to this, if these words have found you in the quiet of your day or in the middle of your chaos, then understand this: you are not here by accident. Something sacred is unfolding. You've been summoned, not by chance, but by divine design. You have been called into remembrance of who you really are. From the beginning, you've felt different. Not better, not superior, just different. There's always been a sense inside you that you were made for more. Not more in terms of ego or ambition, but more in purpose, in depth, in impact. Even when you didn't have the words to describe it, you felt it, a quiet pulse in your spirit, an unseen fire guiding you through places that never quite felt like home. That feeling. It wasn't fantasy. It was prophecy. You are the chosen one. You are not like everyone else. And that's not something to hide from, it's something to embrace. God didn't create you to blend in with the noise of mediocrity. He set you apart. He planted a divine seed in your soul. And that seed carries instructions for greatness, influence, and abundance. Your life was not designed for struggle to be your norm or survival to be your ceiling. You were created for overflow. You were born for prosperity. And you have been marked for wealth, not just spiritual wealth, but material wealth that flows through your life and into the lives of others. This may challenge every belief you've carried up to this point. Perhaps you've grown up thinking that poverty was holy, that ambition was dangerous, that wealth was reserved for a chosen few who inherited fortune or luck. But I am here to tell you, based on the promises of God and the divine design written over your life, that your financial freedom is not a faraway fantasy. It is a spiritual inheritance. And it begins with alignment. You were not meant to just get by. You were not meant to live with the constant weight of not enough time, not enough energy, not enough money. That is not your destiny. That is not your portion. God's word says you were set apart for abundance. And abundance is not only a spiritual concept, it is a practical, visible, world-shifting reality. God doesn't bless you just to comfort you. He blesses you to position you. So you can lead. So you can build. So you can bless others from your overflow. The blessings He has prepared are not for someday. They are here. Now. Ready for you to receive. But you must recognize the calling before you can walk in the promise. Chosen one, wealth is not the reward for hard labor. It is the result of divine favor. That favor is already active in your life. Even if you've experienced setbacks, even if you've walked through financial hardship or seasons of confusion, God's favor has never left you. In fact, those very moments were part of your training ground. They were meant to prepare you for the responsibility of abundance. Because wealth without wisdom can destroy. But when wealth is matched with calling, when prosperity is fueled by purpose, it becomes unstoppable. And you, chosen one, are unstoppable. Now, before we go deeper, I want to invite you into something sacred. This message is not just something to listen to. It is something to respond to. Words have power, but agreement activates them. When you speak in alignment with God's promise over your life, you create spiritual momentum. You set things in motion. So I ask you, if your heart agrees with this word, declare it. Leave a comment that says, "I declare I was born for billionaire destiny." Let it be your testimony. Let it be your act of faith. This isn't just for the sake of engagement. It's for the sake of embodiment. Because the moment you start declaring who you are, everything in the unseen realm begins to align in your favor. If you feel led, you can also write the number 99 in that same comment. In the language of prophetic symbolism, 99 represents completion, spiritual breakthrough, and divine fulfillment. It is the number of things coming full circle. And that's exactly where you are, on the edge of breakthrough, at the door of a divine completion. What has been delayed is being released. What has felt far is drawing near. What was promised is about to become real. This declaration is not a ritual. It is a release. It tells heaven you're ready. It tells the enemy you're not backing down. And most of all, it tells your soul, it's time. If this message is already stirring something inside you, if you feel seen, affirmed, remembered, stay. Stay with me. Because what we're about to unpack together could shift your entire understanding of wealth, purpose, and destiny. This is not about getting rich for the sake of riches. This is about reclaiming your divine assignment. This is about stepping into the fullness of who God made you to be. And if you haven't yet, I gently invite you to subscribe to this channel. We are building a space for those who know they've been set apart, for those who are tired of playing small, tired of waiting for permission, tired of shrinking their vision to fit someone else's comfort. Our goal is to reach 5,000 hearts that are ready to rise, to own their authority, and to build wealth with purpose. Your subscription doesn't just support a channel, it strengthens a movement. And I believe you're meant to be part of it. You've spent enough time doubting your worth. Enough time explaining your dreams to people who couldn't see what God showed you. Enough time living under limits that were never meant to define you. That season is ending. A new one begins now. And it begins with the truth: you were chosen. You were favored. You were called to be wealthy. So take a deep breath. Let that truth sink in. This is not the time to shrink. This is not the time to wait and see. This is the time to step in fully, to believe boldly, and to move in alignment with the abundance that already belongs to you. And now that your heart is open and your spirit is ready, let's move into what comes next. Because in the next part of this message, we will explore the nature of divine favor, how it bypasses logic, overrides systems, and accelerates destinies. We will uncover why your past cannot cancel your promise, and how God's hand on your life is stronger than any circumstance around you. There's something you need to understand, something that will change not only how you see yourself, but how you move in this world. Favor is real. And not just any kind of favor. I'm talking about divine favor, the kind that breaks chains, lifts barriers, and redefines destinies. This is not the kind of favor that depends on who you know, where you come from, or what your resume says. This is not tied to your degrees, your neighborhood, or your bank account. This kind of favor is not earned. It is given. And when it rests on your life, everything shifts. God's favor is supernatural. That means it exists beyond logic, beyond natural cause and effect, beyond earthly systems of reward. It means your blessings are not determined by the family you were born into, the failures you've experienced, or the current state of your circumstances. Maybe you've been told otherwise. Maybe life has taught you to measure your worth by your past mistakes, your current position, or your material lack. But those are lies. Those are illusions. The truth is this: God's favor overrides circumstances, breaks barriers, and lifts you above the ordinary. Let that sink in. Because right now, you might be fighting to believe that you're worthy of abundance. Maybe you've been rejected so many times that you've started to think the problem is you. Maybe you've struggled for so long that you've come to accept struggle as normal. But I need to tell you, struggle is not your story. Favor is. And favor doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't check credentials. It's not interested in public opinion. When God places His hand of favor on someone, nothing can stop their rise. Not critics. Not systems. Not even your own past. So if you're looking around at your life and wondering how it could ever change, if you're carrying the weight of shame from past failures, if you've started to believe that financial freedom was for other people, then hear this clearly: you are not disqualified. You are destined. And what's working for you in the spirit is far greater than what appears to be working against you in the natural. The favor on your life is not limited. It is not delayed. It is already active, and the moment you agree with it, truly agree, it begins to accelerate everything. Let's deal with a deeper truth here. Many people believe in God, but they don't believe in what He has said about them. They trust in his existence, but they doubt his promises. And that internal split is the real battlefield. Because until you believe you've been chosen, you will keep acting like someone who's been left behind. Until you believe that favor belongs to you, you will keep trying to earn what's already been given. That's the spiritual exhaustion many people are living in, constantly performing for approval that has already been granted. But chosen one, you were never meant to live on scraps. You were never meant to beg life for a breakthrough. You were meant to walk in authority, in clarity, in divine assurance that you have been placed here not to rely, but to reign. And that shift doesn't begin when you get the job, the money, or the house. It begins the moment you believe that you were born to lead, not from arrogance, but from alignment. The favor on your life is your license to rise. You were created to operate from overflow, not from fear. You are not here to be dependent on paychecks, caught in cycles of debt, or crushed under financial pressure. That is not your inheritance. You were designed to build, to influence, to give, and to bless from a place of abundance. But that can't happen if you still think like someone who's powerless. It can't manifest if you still define yourself by your struggle. So this is your invitation to let go of the false identity that life has tried to place on you, the identity of being stuck, being unworthy, being late to your own destiny. The favor of God makes you dangerous in the best way. It makes you immune to opinions. It makes you resilient to delays. It makes you bold in rooms you used to feel small in. Because once you understand that the favor on your life was decided by heaven, you stop being intimidated by anything that was built by man. That is what it means to be chosen, to walk in a level of freedom that can't be given by people and therefore can't be taken away by them. And let's be honest, maybe you've been waiting for signs, for proof, for that perfect opportunity to show up. But what if I told you that the proof is already in your identity? That the evidence of your future is in the favor you've already survived with? The fact that you're still here, still seeking, still breathing, still listening, is proof that he hasn't changed his mind about you. What he promised still stands. What he declared over your life before you were formed in your mother's womb is still active. Your job is not to make it happen. Your job is to believe it's already yours. When you understand favor in this way, everything changes. You stop asking, will I ever get ahead, and start declaring, I was never behind. You stop chasing validation and start moving from vision. You stop living like a servant of systems and start living like a steward of destiny. This is not ego. This is identity. And your identity is not in struggle, it's in sonship. You are not just surviving under God. You are thriving because of Him. This is the moment to stop thinking like someone who is trapped. To stop living like someone who is dependent. And to start moving like someone who was born to dominate. You were called to be a lender, not a borrower. A builder, not just a consumer. A channel of blessing, not just a recipient of scraps. This is not just encouragement. This is a spiritual correction. Because as long as you continue to identify with lack, you will resist the overflow that's trying to enter your life. So let this message not just inspire you, but reset you. Realign you. Let it bring you back to your original design. A design that was never meant to be shaped by culture, hardship, or fear. A design that was crafted in heaven with favor embedded into every strand of your destiny. And now that you see this clearly, now that you know where your favor comes from, and more importantly, what it's not limited by, we are ready to go even deeper. Because favor is only the beginning. In the next part of this journey, we'll confront the internal beliefs that block abundance. We'll examine the mindset that delays manifestation, and show you how to align not only your faith, but your identity, with the reality of wealth that's already prepared for you. Before you can live in abundance, you must first believe that you belong there. This is not a surface-level belief, it's not simply repeating affirmations or visualizing a bigger bank account. This is about transformation from the inside out. Because true wealth, lasting, spiritual, transformational wealth, begins not in your circumstances, but in your consciousness. And the most powerful truth you must accept today is this: the wealth is already yours, but your mind must catch up with that truth. You see, abundance is not something you acquire. It is something you align with. It already exists, not in a distant future, but in the spiritual realm that surrounds your life even now. The blessings you seek are not waiting to be created, they are waiting to be received. But you cannot receive what you continue to resist. And most of us resist abundance not because we don't want it, but because we don't truly believe we are worthy of it. This is where the internal battle begins. If your mind is still wired with scarcity, if your thoughts are still dominated by fear, doubt, and limitation, then even the favor that is already active in your life will seem far away. It's not because it isn't there, it's because you're tuned to the wrong frequency. When your soul operates on the wavelength of lack, you unintentionally push away the very things that are trying to find you. Maybe you've caught yourself thinking, "I'm not ready," or "I'm not enough," or "I'll believe it when I see it." But the truth is, you'll never see it until you believe it. Faith is not the response to a miracle, it's the foundation of one. The money, the opportunities, the breakthroughs, they are not waiting on God. They are waiting on your agreement. So the question is not whether you're capable. The question is, can your mind catch up with your spirit? Can you let go of the thought patterns that keep you trapped in a story of delay and begin to see yourself as someone who is already wealthy in the eyes of heaven? Because you are. That is not a wishful thought, it is a spiritual fact. But here's the issue: for most people, their biggest barrier isn't money. It's mindset. It's the quiet, recurring doubt that whispers, "I don't deserve this. Maybe one day. Maybe if I work a little harder. Maybe if I fix everything that's wrong with me." That voice isn't truth. It's trauma. It's conditioning. It's the echo of a world that taught you to earn what was already yours. If you're still waiting for permission to step into abundance, this is your permission. If you're waiting for a sign, this is your sign. You do not need to wait for evidence to believe. You need to believe so that evidence can appear. That's why the content said, see yourself as someone who is already wealthy in the spiritual realm. Because the key is not to wait until your bank account reflects wealth to start living like you're blessed. The key is to act, think, speak, and move like someone who already lives in abundance, because in the unseen realm, that is exactly who you are. This isn't about pretending. It's about perceiving. It's about walking in identity instead of insecurity. When you do that, everything begins to shift. Your energy changes. Your decisions change. Your posture changes. And the world around you starts to respond to the version of you that has finally come into agreement with your destiny. Let's talk about something even deeper. Many of us think that wealth happens by chance, that some people just get lucky. But spiritual wealth doesn't work like that. In the kingdom, wealth flows to those who are aligned in thought, in attitude, and in action. When your belief matches your identity, and your energy matches your calling, that's when divine favor begins to move without resistance. So stop thinking that wealth is something you have to chase. It's not. The content put it perfectly: money is not something you chase. It is something you become a magnet for. But magnetism doesn't begin in your wallet, it begins in your spirit. The most magnetic energy in the universe is certainty. Not arrogance. Not entitlement. But quiet, unwavering, deep in your bones certainty that says, I am chosen. I am ready. I am already aligned with what is mine. That's the shift. From waiting to possessing. From hoping to knowing. From begging to declaring. And when you make that shift, everything starts to accelerate. Opportunities you once felt unworthy of now come toward you. Resources begin to align. Doors open, not because you forced them, but because your energy matched the room. But if you keep living like someone who's waiting for breakthrough, you'll keep missing the fact that you're already walking in it. You don't need to ask for what's already yours. You need to start living like it belongs to you. That means making decisions from abundance, not fear. It means giving without panicking. Dreaming without apologizing. Leading without shrinking. The law of assumption is spiritual at its core. When you assume that what has been promised is already real, you move differently. You move like someone who expects blessing, not someone who's trying to convince themselves they deserve it. And that's where the miracle happens. Because energy flows where belief goes. And when your belief becomes stable, your world becomes fluid. Let's be practical. If today you believe that your wealth already exists in the spiritual realm, how would that change the way you think? The way you walk into a room? The way you speak to opportunities? The way you treat yourself? Would you still play small? Would you still ask for permission? Would you still wait for someone to open the door, or would you recognize that you are the door? This is not about arrogance. It's about agreement. Agreement with God's vision for your life. Agreement with the favor that's already moving. Agreement with the calling that has been on your name since before the foundation of the world. And when you live in that agreement, you no longer fear the future, you begin to shape it. So stop saying, "I'm waiting for the money to show up." Start declaring, "The money has been waiting for me to believe." Stop waiting for an external shift and start making an internal decision. Because the truth is, every delay you've experienced was never about God withholding. It was about you becoming ready. Ready to steward, to carry, to honor, and to multiply what's already been placed within your reach. This is your moment to reset. To move from lack to legacy. From fear to fulfillment. From hoping for blessings to embodying the blessed life. And now that your mind has begun to align with what your spirit has always known, it's time to take the next step. Because wealth isn't just for your comfort, it's for your calling. In the next part, we'll dive into the deeper reason why you were destined for riches. Why your abundance is not selfish, but sacred. And why your wealth is part of a larger mission to impact lives and expand the kingdom. One of the greatest spiritual misunderstandings is believing that wealth is the destination. It's not. It was never meant to be. Wealth is not the goal, it is the tool. And if you've been chosen by God, if you've been marked by divine favor, then that tool has a purpose far greater than personal gain. It exists to serve your assignment. It exists to carry out your calling. Because in the kingdom of God, wealth is never isolated. It is always attached to impact. Let's be clear, money in itself is neutral. It does not corrupt. It reveals. It amplifies what already exists within you. And when the Spirit of God lives within you, wealth becomes a holy resource. It becomes the vehicle through which healing flows into communities. It becomes the structure that supports vision. It becomes the voice that speaks up for those who have none. That's why the content says, wealth is not just about having money. It is about power. It is about influence. It is about freedom. Freedom to give without hesitation. Freedom to build what you were born to build. Freedom to walk boldly into places where others only wish they could go. But if wealth is the tool, you are the vessel. And vessels must be willing, prepared, and positioned. You were not designed to live on the edge of just enough. You were created to move in overflow. You were designed to own, to lead, and to dominate in your calling. That means you are not waiting for opportunity, you create it. You are not hoping to be invited, you are already assigned. And when the assignment is clear, the resources begin to move toward you with divine precision. Some of you have been trained to feel guilty about desiring more. You were taught that humility means lack, or that ambition is incompatible with faith. But that's a distortion of the truth. Because when God calls you, He equips you. And when He equips you, He gives you more than enough, not so you can flaunt it, but so you can fulfill it. Your wealth is not a contradiction to your character. It is confirmation of your capacity to carry more, bless more, and build more. Right now, even as you hear this, there are ideas inside you, divinely planted, eternally valuable, just waiting to be activated. You don't need to go searching for purpose. It has already been placed within you. The content made it clear, there are billion-dollar ideas locked inside you. Not somewhere out there. Not in someone else. In you. The question is no longer whether you have potential. The question is whether you have the courage to believe it. So let's go deeper. Why haven't those ideas manifested yet? Why does it feel like you're circling the same patterns, repeating the same cycles, watching others walk in what you know was meant for you? It's not because God is withholding. It's because belief is the bridge. The only thing standing between you and the manifestation of that wealth is belief. Not belief as a passive feeling, but belief as a decision, a daily, deliberate alignment with who you are in the spirit, even before your reality catches up. That belief is not about trying harder. It's about seeing clearer. It's about recognizing that abundance has always been part of your inheritance. You were never meant to wonder if you'd have enough. You were meant to wonder how much good you could do with the excess God has entrusted to you. But here's where many get stuck. They are waiting for the external shift without making the internal change. They're praying for provision, but still thinking like someone who lacks. Still doubting. Still apologizing for their dreams. Still holding back because they fear being judged for wanting more. But chosen one, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need permission to step into wealth. You don't need validation to embrace your destiny. You only need to believe. And when you believe, the posture of your life changes. You begin to speak differently. Move differently. Choose differently. You stop delaying the future and start embodying the calling. Because your wealth is not about ego, it's about execution. It's about carrying out the will of God on earth, fully resourced and fully equipped. Now, let's speak to something practical yet spiritual, your ability to give. Because you cannot pour out what you have not received. You cannot bless others from a place of burnout, or generosity from a place of fear. That's why your wealth matters. That's why your overflow is not optional. It's necessary. When you are full, you can pour. When you are stable, you can lift. When you are strong, you can protect. Your financial health is directly connected to your spiritual assignment. That's why the statement in the content, "You must see yourself as someone who deserves to be wealthy," is not just a motivational line. It's a divine command. Because if you do not see yourself as someone worthy of abundance, you will sabotage it when it comes. You will shrink from it. Hide from it. Mismanage it. But when you understand that wealth is your tool for mission, not a trophy for pride, you can hold it with clean hands and a clear conscience. So what's next? You believe. And then you act. Not from fear, but from faith. Not from pressure, but from purpose. You stop waiting until everything is perfect and you start moving as if it already is. Because spiritually, it is. The wealth you seek has already been assigned. The ideas have already been given. The favor has already been released. The only question now is, will you move like someone who knows that? And that brings us to what must come next. Belief is the beginning, but alignment through action is the key that opens the door. In the next part, we'll talk about how to move with faith in the natural realm, how to step into divine timing, position yourself wisely, and activate the breakthrough that's been hovering around you, waiting for your readiness. There are moments in life when everything changes, not slowly, not gradually, but suddenly. The ground beneath your feet shifts. The doors that seemed locked for years begin to open. And the favor you've been believing for starts moving faster than you ever thought possible. This is one of those moments. And whether or not you're ready to admit it, your spirit already knows, you are standing at the edge of your greatest breakthrough. This is not poetic exaggeration. It is prophetic timing. The waiting, the pressing, the years of frustration and delay, they weren't punishment. They were preparation. You were not being held back. You were being positioned. Positioned for a season of accelerated transformation that your past could never have predicted. And now that season has arrived. What once felt far is now within reach. What was once just a vision in your heart is beginning to take form. This is not the time to question the shift. This is the time to rise into it. But here's the truth, breakthrough doesn't mean ease. It means alignment. It doesn't guarantee comfort, it demands readiness. Because the floodgates are opening, yes. But only those who are prepared, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, will be able to walk through them. The content says it clearly, everything that was delayed in your life is about to be released. But that release isn't automatic. It requires participation. It requires that you not only believe in abundance but that you move in sync with it. So let me ask you this, are you truly ready for the season you've been praying for? Or are you still waiting for some mythical, perfect time, before you act? Because let's be honest, perfection is a trap. It tells you to wait until you're confident. Until it feels safe. Until everything lines up. But destiny doesn't wait. It knocks. And when it does, you either open the door, or you hesitate and miss the window. This is not the time to hesitate. This is the time to move with conviction. The truth is, what's about to happen will unfold faster than you imagined. The content declared, the breakthrough will happen fast, bigger, better, and more powerful than you ever imagined. That's not just a comforting line. That's a warning and an invitation. It's a call to act boldly, without needing all the answers in advance. Because you won't have them. Faith is not about control. It's about clarity. And clarity means this is your time. But if you let fear whisper to you, if you let hesitation creep in, if you continue to think small, play it safe, and wait to see how things go, you will forfeit what has already been appointed to you. God's promises are real, but they are time-sensitive. Miracles are not waiting on your perfection. They're waiting on your participation. Every major move of God requires a human response. The Red Sea parted, but Moses had to raise his staff. The walls of Jericho fell, but the people had to march. Your breakthrough is here, but you must step into it. This is why the content urges, stop thinking small. Stop playing it safe. Because small thinking cannot carry big vision. Playing it safe cannot birth transformation. And if you're truly chosen, if you've been marked for divine wealth and influence, then staying where you are is not only limiting, it's disobedient. The time for hiding is over. The time for waiting is gone. This is the time for boldness. For action. For stepping into what you've already seen in your spirit but have been too afraid to claim out loud. What's been hovering over your life, ideas, opportunities, provision, connections, is not waiting for you to become more qualified. It's waiting for you to become more courageous. You've already been prepared. The trials shaped you. The silence trained you. The delay strengthened you. And now, the season you are being shaped for is ready to begin. The speed of this transformation will require clarity of mind and strength of heart. You cannot afford to carry old mindsets into this new momentum. So release the fear that kept you playing small. Release the doubt that told you weren't ready. Release the shame that made you question whether you deserve it. Because none of those things have the authority to override what God has appointed. This moment is not about what you've done. It's about what you're willing to believe. And if you can believe that divine acceleration is real, then you must also act like it's already begun. Let this be your line in the sand, no more delay. No more shrinking. No more asking for signs when the confirmation is already in your heart. This is the time to step forward, not timidly, but fully. To speak the vision. To start the project. To write the check. To build the thing. To move with the energy of someone who knows their breakthrough is not coming, it's already here. You are no longer the person who hopes. You are the person who claims. You are no longer the one waiting. You are the one walking. But this kind of movement requires discipline. It requires you to live every day as if the manifestation has already begun, because spiritually, it has. It requires you to make decisions from the place of abundance, not scarcity. From a mindset of vision, not fear. From the position of a builder, not a beggar. You must start carrying yourself as someone who knows the blessing is inevitable, not because you are lucky, but because you are aligned. And that leads us to what comes next. Because stepping into this season is just the beginning. To sustain what's coming, you will need more than passion. You will need a pattern of thinking, choosing, and acting that reflects the identity of someone who is already walking in wealth. In the next part of this journey, we will talk about that exact pattern, how to cultivate and live out the mindset of a billionaire. Because divine favor may open the door, but it is your mindset that will determine whether you can stay in the room. There's a reason why some people seem to attract wealth effortlessly while others chase it their entire lives. It's not luck. It's not lineage. It's not how many hours they grind or how many connections they have. The truth is far more spiritual than we often realize. Money is energy, and it flows to those who command it. Wealth responds not to desperation, but to vibration. Not to panic, but to positioning. And until we understand this, we'll keep confusing hustle with harvest. We've been conditioned to believe that the only way to be rich is to work ourselves to exhaustion. That success is earned only through relentless effort and self-sacrifice. But what if that belief is the very thing keeping you broke, mentally, emotionally, and financially? Because in the kingdom of God, wealth is not the reward of exhaustion. It is the reflection of alignment. Alignment with who you are, with what you believe, and with the energy you consistently release into the world. When you operate from fear, scarcity, or self-doubt, you emit a frequency that literally repels the blessings that are meant for you. You can't attract abundance while vibrating lack. You can't invite overflow while carrying the energy of survival. So the first shift is internal. It's not about changing your job, your location, or your network. It's about changing your frequency. But how do you do that? The answer is simple, yet deeply confronting: preparation. Most people say they want wealth. They pray for abundance. But they never prepare for it. And preparation is not about having more time or money. It's about acting from the belief that what you've asked for is already on the way. That's why the content says, most people pray for wealth, but they never prepare for it. Because preparation is the proof of expectation. When you start preparing your life, your mindset, and your habits for the arrival of wealth, you're telling heaven, I'm ready. Ask yourself, if billions were released into your hands tomorrow, would your habits be able to hold them? Would your mindset support them or sabotage them? Because God doesn't just bless intention, He blesses infrastructure. He releases wealth where there's room to receive, multiply, and manage it with purpose. This is why the content calls us to move, think, and speak like a billionaire. Not to impress others. Not to fake success. But to create energetic alignment with the reality we've been promised. When you move like a billionaire, you make decisions from abundance, not fear. You invest in your mind. You take care of your body. You set boundaries with your time. You treat your thoughts as sacred, and your vision as non-negotiable. When you think like a billionaire, you stop worrying about petty drama, stop making decisions from lack, and stop doubting what God has already confirmed. When you speak like a billionaire, your words reflect certainty, clarity, and conviction. You don't say, maybe one day. You say, it's already in motion. Let's make it real. Preparing for wealth looks like enrolling in that course even if you're nervous. It looks like setting up the business account before the clients come. It looks like giving generously, even when it's not comfortable, because you trust that what you give is seed, not loss. It looks like dressing for where you're going, not just where you are. It looks like managing the little you have with the discipline of someone who handles millions. That's alignment. That's vibration. That's frequency. And when you shift into that space, when you live, move, and breathe as someone who knows they're chosen for abundance, something supernatural begins to happen. Wealth stops being a struggle. opportunities stop being rare. The right people, the right conversations, the right doors begin to find you without you having to force anything. Not because you manipulated outcomes, but because you finally aligned with the spiritual frequency that your destiny requires. That's why the content makes this radical statement: you don't have to chase anything. When you align, money will chase you. That statement is not hype. It's a spiritual law. When you become a vessel that carries wealth well, when your character, mindset, and actions match the weight of your calling, wealth is drawn to you effortlessly. It no longer feels like striving. It begins to feel like flow. That doesn't mean you won't work. But it means your work will finally feel like it's producing the fruit you were designed to carry. This is not about pretending you have it all together. It's about becoming who you're meant to be in advance. It's about showing up for your life with the energy of someone who already knows what God has spoken, and acts accordingly. Because when your energy and your actions agree, the universe responds with acceleration. But let's be clear, this isn't magic. This is mastery. The mastery of your emotions. The mastery of your mindset. The mastery of your movement. Because the truth is, you can pray for years and still miss what God has for you if your life is not in sync with the answer He's trying to send. Heaven does not respond to begging. It responds to boldness. Not arrogance, but spiritual certainty. Not performance, but preparation. So today is not just a call to believe. It's a call to become. Become the kind of person your breakthrough can trust. Become the kind of steward your wealth won't be wasted on. Become the kind of leader whose presence carries favor without speaking a word. That's what walking in divine energy looks like. And as you embody this frequency, as you act, speak, and live as someone already walking in abundance, you step into the center of the promise. Not waiting for it. Not watching for it. But becoming it. Which brings us to the next step. Because now that you've begun to move in alignment, the next phase is learning how to fully take ownership. To think and act as someone who no longer asks for blessing, but distributes it. In the next part, we will explore how to solidify your financial energy into sustained authority. How to live, lead, and decide as someone who knows their wealth was never a coincidence, it was a commission. There's a sacred tension that exists between the promise and the proof. And every chosen one must walk through it. It's the space where the vision is clear, but the reality seems unchanged. The calling is undeniable, yet the evidence is still invisible. It's in this space that many give up, not because the promise wasn't true, but because they didn't understand the purpose of the pause. If you've been feeling like things are moving slower than expected, if doubt has been whispering that maybe you misheard God, or maybe you're not actually chosen, then this part of the journey is for you. Because what you're facing is not the end of the road, it's the proving ground of your faith. The content said it clearly: there will be moments when doubt tries to creep in, but those moments are illusions. They are distractions meant to test your faith. That means what you're going through is not failure, it's formation. Every promise from God is tested before it's manifested. Not to disqualify you, but to solidify you. To make sure that when the blessing comes, it doesn't break you. To ensure that your identity is rooted so deeply in what He said that no delay, no silence, no opposition can uproot it. So if your life looks like it's in a holding pattern, don't panic. You're not stuck, you're being strategically positioned. The truth is, some of the most powerful seasons of breakthrough begin with a period of silence. When it looks like nothing is happening, but behind the scenes, everything is shifting. Heaven is arranging connections, aligning timing, and placing you exactly where you need to be. What feels like a delay is often a divine setup. And when the moment comes, it will happen quickly, so quickly, in fact, that you'll barely have time to process it. What once took others years to achieve will happen for you in an instant. That's not wishful thinking. That's divine acceleration. But to be ready for that level of sudden breakthrough, you must remain unwavering when things seem still. That's where your real power lies, not in reacting to what you see, but in remaining anchored to what you know. Because your wealth, your opportunity, your influence, it's not waiting to be created. It's waiting for your belief to catch up. Here's the shift that must happen now: stop seeing yourself as the one waiting. You are not waiting for money. Money is waiting for you. This is more than a catchy phrase. It's a spiritual reversal of your posture. You're not chasing blessing. You're carrying the vibration that attracts it. You're not pleading for breakthrough. You're positioned as someone who already walks in it. And when you understand that, your energy changes. Your decisions shift. Your whole atmosphere begins to align with that identity. That's why faith isn't a feeling, it's a position. A posture. A decision. It's choosing to continue preparing, even when you don't see evidence yet. It's speaking life when your circumstances look dry. It's managing your finances as if overflow is already on its way. It's investing in your growth, showing up to the vision, stewarding your gifts, all while nothing looks different on the outside. That is real faith. And that is what keeps the frequency of wealth active, even when the world tries to tell you otherwise. Don't underestimate what's happening inside of you just because you can't yet see the results outside of you. The internal shift always precedes the external breakthrough. And that's where many lose heart, because we live in a world that rewards instant results, not invisible alignment. But God's system doesn't work on applause. It works on agreement. And your agreement is proven not when you see the blessing, but when you act as though it's already yours. So how do you maintain your energy, your belief, your posture, when nothing seems to be moving? You act. You keep showing up. You declare what God has spoken. You continue to align your habits, your conversations, your relationships with the reality you've chosen to believe. You don't wait until the money appears to budget like a millionaire. You don't wait until the door opens to prepare your pitch. You don't wait until you're recognized to lead with excellence. You do all of it now, as if the promise has already landed. Because in the spiritual realm, it has. This is not delusion. It's discipline. And that discipline sends a signal into the atmosphere: I'm ready. When heaven sees that, acceleration begins. Because God does not bless those who merely hope, He blesses those who move in faith. Let this sink in deeply: everything you've been believing for is real. It exists. And it's already in motion. The only thing that determines the speed of its manifestation is your ability to believe when nothing yet confirms it. The content reminded us, success isn't waiting to happen, it's waiting for you to believe it's already yours. That's the kind of belief that moves mountains. That's the kind of faith that births miracles. So today, if your life looks quiet, if your vision feels delayed, if you're wondering whether all this work is worth it, know this: you are not forgotten. You are being formed. You are not off track. You are on the brink. Your faith is not wasted. It's being weighed. And the moment you decide that you already have what heaven has declared, everything will shift in your favor. And now comes the transition. Because once you've made that internal decision, once you've stood your ground even when the wind was against you, then you're ready. Ready to not just wait for your calling, but to walk fully in it. In the next part, we will explore what it means to live as someone who has already stepped into their financial destiny. Not just believing it's possible, but embodying it with every decision, every day. There comes a moment in your spiritual journey when waiting becomes resistance. When holding out for proof becomes the very thing delaying the manifestation. That moment is now. And the shift you are being called to make is simple but radical: you must stop waiting to feel wealthy and start living as if you already are. The wealth is not just coming, it's already yours. The only question is, are you aligned with it? This is not just mindset work. This is soul-level recalibration. The content says it clearly: move now with confidence, as if the wealth is already in your possession. That means the delay is not in the blessing, it's in the belief. Not in the external world, but in the energy you emit each day. If you keep waking up wondering when, you're holding yourself in a vibration of lack. But when you wake up declaring, now, you shift into the frequency that welcomes fulfillment. Let's be clear, wealth is not something you chase, it's a state you embody. It's not something you're hoping to earn one day, it's the nature of who you are when you align with divine truth. That's why the idea of acting rich is not about pretense or performance. It's about agreement. Agreement with heaven. Agreement with your calling. Agreement with the identity of someone who was chosen for overflow, not scarcity. The root of this shift lies in your identity. If you still see yourself as someone waiting for wealth, then your choices, your speech, your posture, all of it will reflect hesitation. But when you see yourself as someone who has already received divine favor, everything changes. That's what it means to move from waiting to become into acting from what already is. So how do you do this? You begin by living from your spiritual truth, not your current bank balance. You make decisions as someone who knows that provision is promised. You don't say, I hope I'll be ready when it happens. You say, I am already ready. It's happening now. This is the faith posture that opens gates. This is the energetic signature that calls wealth to you instead of pushing it away. Let's talk practically. If you were already a billionaire in the spiritual realm, how would you manage your time? How would you talk to others? What projects would you finally start? What excuses would you release? The content reminded us, start making decisions as if you already have the money, the success, the resources. That is not fantasy. That is alignment. That is spiritual law in motion. When you live from that truth, you activate the favor already hovering over your life. But here's the challenge many face. Their internal world is still dominated by questions like, am I enough? Can I really do this? What if I fail? These are thoughts rooted in fear, not faith. They are the echoes of an old self, one that believed struggle was the norm and survival was noble. But you were not born to survive. You were born to thrive. And you can't thrive if your mindset is still trapped in just enough. That's why this stage of the journey demands total alignment, in thought, in speech, and in action. Your thinking must rise to meet your calling. No more, I hope I make it. Replace that with, I'm already walking in it. Your language must reflect authority, not apology. Instead of, I'll try, declare, I am moving in power and certainty. Your actions must mirror conviction. No more deferring dreams. No more shrinking back. You invest. You build. You lead. Not from pressure, but from the posture of someone who was always meant to. When you choose to act from a place of abundance, the world begins to respond accordingly. You become a magnet. Not just for money, but for aligned relationships, divine opportunities, strategic favor. You stop chasing doors and start walking as someone whose presence opens them. You stop waiting for miracles and start moving as one who carries them. But that alignment also means ruthlessly protecting your energy. You must reject the belief that wealth is rare. Reject the thought that success is for someone else. Reject the lie that says, you have to earn it by being perfect. None of that is kingdom truth. The content said it best, you must reject the idea that money is hard to come by, that success is for a select few. Your birthright is abundance. Not as something to attain, but as something to live from, starting now. Every time you defer that truth, every time you act as if wealth is still far away, you delay your own breakthrough. That delay is not from God. It's from your own energetic signal. And until you stop vibrating, not yet, the blessing cannot fully manifest as already. The universe, and divine favor, responds to identity. And identity is proven through action. That's why this moment is so critical. It's not just about waiting for your time. It's about realizing your time is now. Not in theory, but in practice. You are no longer hoping for wealth. You are holding it. Not with your hands, but with your habits. And those habits must be shaped by truth. The truth that says, I was chosen for impact. I was born for greatness. I am already aligned with supernatural abundance. You may not see it yet, but every time you walk into a room with confidence, every time you make a decision that reflects prosperity, every time you speak with authority, you are pulling your future into the present. You are collapsing time. You are accelerating destiny. Because you're no longer asking, is it possible? You're declaring, it's already happening. And that brings us to the next phase of your journey. Because once you start living like you've already received the promise, the spiritual atmosphere begins to shift. Things that used to feel stuck begin to move. Delays begin to dissolve. Opportunities begin to rise from unexpected places. But to stay in that momentum, you must be prepared. You must know how to protect your belief when resistance shows up. You must guard your clarity when distractions come. In the next part, we will explore how to reject every limiting belief and fully embrace the next level version of you, the one that acts, thinks, gives, and leads from overflow, not overcompensation. If you've made it this far in your spiritual journey, it means you've already chosen to believe that wealth is your birthright. But now comes the deeper challenge, letting go of every lingering limitation that still hides in your mind, in your language, in your subconscious reactions. Because the truth is this, you cannot live $1 billion destiny with $100 mindset. You cannot hold abundance with hands still clenching onto fear. This part of the journey is not about receiving more, it's about removing what blocks the flow. The content makes it crystal clear, stop thinking small. Stop playing it safe. These aren't just motivational phrases. They are spiritual wake-up calls. Because many chosen ones are not stuck because of circumstance, but because of the cage they've built in their own minds. Doubt is the most sophisticated form of delay. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It creeps in through rational questions, careful hesitations, well-meaning second-guessing. But what it ultimately does is disconnect you from the frequency of your calling. When you constantly question, will I really be that successful, or am I truly meant to hold that kind of wealth, what you're doing is disrupting the signal between your spirit and the divine abundance already assigned to you. The energy of doubt is not neutral, it's destructive. It doesn't keep you safe, it keeps you stuck. And the content doesn't mince words, you cannot afford to waver, to doubt, or to shrink back in fear. That is not just advice, it is a spiritual command. To step fully into your financial calling, you must upgrade the scale of your vision. You were not chosen for comfort, you were chosen for kingdom-level influence. Not just to make a living, but to move markets. Not just to be successful, but to become a pillar of divine economy. That's why the message doesn't say, aim to make millions. It says, aim to make billions. This isn't greed, it's governance. You are being positioned to carry wealth not just for yourself, but for communities, nations, and generations. And that kind of assignment requires a vision big enough to carry the weight of it. So what does it mean to aim higher? It means you stop setting goals that only protect your comfort. You start setting intentions that pull you out of the crowd. You begin speaking in a way that reflects destiny, not desperation. You plan with faith, not fear. You surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow, not people who reinforce your limitations. Because vision is not just about what you see, it's about who you're becoming. And that's why you must also evaluate your environment. Are you spending your days around people who speak life, or speak limitation? Do your conversations uplift your frequency, or slowly pull you back into the old version of you? The truth is, wealth travels in energy fields. And if you stay planted in a field of fear, jealousy, or lack, you will block the very flow you've been praying for. The content echoes this reality. You can no longer surround yourself with people who operate in fear, doubt, and limitation. That's not arrogance, it's alignment. You are not rejecting people. You are protecting your purpose. And part of your spiritual maturity is knowing that not everyone can go where you are going. Your future requires a new kind of company. A circle that thinks big, speaks abundance, believes in miracles, and isn't intimidated by your vision. As you release what no longer fits your frequency, something miraculous happens. Your spirit begins to rise. Your thoughts become clearer. Your decisions more decisive. And your actions begin to carry the energy of someone already in motion toward destiny. That's when you enter what the content calls a season of acceleration. Suddenly, what used to take years happens in months. What felt out of reach becomes magnetic. Doors open without you knocking. People show up without explanation. Resources arrive with divine precision. This is not coincidence, it's confirmation. It's what happens when you expand your vision to match your divine identity. But this shift is not automatic. It requires intention. It requires that you reprogram how you think, speak, and choose, moment by moment. It requires that you catch yourself when smallness tries to return. When fear disguises itself as logic. When comfort seduces you into shrinking. And in those moments, you must remind yourself, you were not chosen to be ordinary. You were chosen to disrupt limitation, to rebuild structures, to carry influence with humility and authority. So now, the invitation is this: walk into your next level with your whole being aligned. No more partial faith. No more conditional confidence. Expand your vision. Elevate your expectation. Stretch the capacity of what you believe is possible for your life. You are not just someone with a dream, you are someone with a decree. And heaven is waiting for you to fully believe it. The financial increase you've been sensing? It's not just a fantasy, it's a response to the new level of vision you're about to claim. But the speed of your breakthrough depends on the size of your expectation. So dream bigger. Speak bolder. Act sooner. Because everything you desire is not only possible, it's already being released. All that's left is for you to catch up to what God has already prepared. Which brings us to the next phase. Because once you've expanded your financial vision and dismantled the inner ceilings of doubt, you are now ready to fully step into the embodiment of your billionaire identity. In the next part, we will explore how to walk, speak, and lead from a place of full authority, no longer questioning whether you are enough, but living as someone who knows that abundance flows through them effortlessly and continuously. There comes a time when hoping is no longer enough. When dreaming is no longer brave. When preparing, planning, praying all lead to the same inevitable truth, you must now step fully into what has already been written for you. This is that time. And this is that moment. Not next year. Not when you get one more sign. Not when your account finally reflects your vision. Now. The message you've heard up to this point has not been theory. It has not been a distant wish. Every word has been a divine reminder of what already exists in the spirit: your wealth, your impact, your freedom, your billionaire destiny. This is not motivational hype. This is alignment. The wealth is not coming. It's waiting. And the only delay left is your permission. You are not waiting on money. Money has been waiting on you. Waiting for you to stop acting like someone who needs proof to believe. Waiting for you to stop asking if you're worthy. Waiting for you to move with the certainty of someone who knows they've been chosen. This is not a dream to pursue. It's a truth to embody. And it begins the moment you stop trying to become and start living as though you already are. The content laid out a sacred structure. Not just promises, but principles. For unshakable pillars that uphold the theology of divine wealth. And it's time we summarize them not as suggestions, but as your spiritual compass. First is belief. This is where everything begins. Do you believe that you were chosen not just to survive, but to thrive? Do you believe that your prosperity was pre-written, not based on performance but on purpose? Without this belief, everything else falters. Because wealth does not respond to logic, it responds to frequency. And belief is the seed of frequency. Second is declaration. Heaven doesn't move on silence. Your mouth is your weapon. Your tongue is your key. When you speak, you establish. You must speak wealth before you see it. You must write it, affirm it, declare it daily until your words carve a new world. I am already wealthy. Abundance flows to me without resistance. I am aligned with my billionaire destiny. These are not affirmations. These are activations. Third is inspired action. Faith without movement is spiritual apathy. You don't wait to feel ready. You don't wait for conditions to be ideal. You act now, as if it's already yours. You make decisions from fullness. You invest like you're already fruitful. You lead like you've already been appointed. Every action you take from this posture sends a signal to the divine, I am ready to receive. And the fourth pillar is energetic alignment. This is where most people miss it. They pray, they speak, they even act, but their energy vibrates with fear, with doubt, with lack. You cannot attract wealth while vibrating shame. You must elevate your state. You must think bigger. Speak with more certainty. Surround yourself with people who expand you, not shrink you. Protect your field. Cleanse your thoughts. Raise your vibration to match the wealth you're expecting. Because, as the content said, money is energy, and it flows to those who command it. And now, after all of this, we come to the final instruction: walk like a billionaire. Think like one. Speak like one. Because that is who you are becoming. Not tomorrow. Not once someone else validates it. Not once it's comfortable. Now. You must begin to carry yourself with the confidence of someone already confirmed in heaven. You must stop shrinking your dreams to match your current conditions. You must stop playing small to make others comfortable. You must begin to live, not just as a future success, but as a current embodiment of what wealth looks like when it is submitted to divine purpose. You don't need permission. You need remembrance. You need to remember who you are. Remember what God whispered to your spirit long before life taught you to settle. Remember that you are not someone becoming. You are someone awakening. The world doesn't need more people chasing money. The world needs more chosen ones embodying divine prosperity. People who show what it looks like to live in overflow and still remain grounded. People who lead with humility, give with boldness, and walk in power. You were called to be one of those people. And so here is your final call: stop waiting. Start living. The wealth has been released. The doors have already opened. The opportunities are circling your life even now. All that remains is for you to say yes with your actions, your decisions, and your attitude. Take the leap. Launch the business. Say yes to the deal. Invest in your growth. Walk away from what no longer aligns. Speak with conviction. Think without limits. And live as though all of heaven has already said amen. Because it has. Before we close, if this message has stirred your spirit, I invite you to plant a seed of faith right now, not just in thought, but in action. Declare your alignment in the comments. Share this message with someone who needs to remember who they are. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. Your voice, your presence, your agreement, they help build a global movement of chosen ones who will no longer apologize for their abundance. This is more than a video. This is a moment of confirmation. A moment of alignment. A moment when you stop asking, "Can I really be rich?" and start affirming, "I already am." This is the end of hoping. The end of hesitating. The end of wondering. This is the beginning of embodiment. Of walking with God's favor fully ignited. Of commanding wealth instead of chasing it. Of living with a billionaire spirit and making decisions from eternal abundance. You were chosen for this. Not someday. Not maybe. Now.